Stop your coming and come. Stop your coming and come. Come and stop your coming and come. Can't stop your coming and come and stop your coming and come. Good and well trapped. All night I've been there. I chew the captain or even Papa Shanty. This is promised by His Imperial Majesty. The bloodlines of Ashashamani. Stop your coming and come. So stop your coming and come. It's our destiny, no more history, no more slavery. To be free, it is our legacy. Never a holiday, African dynasty. To be free, African dynasty. African dynasty. Liberty, African dynasty.
What's good, folkers? I went through the preambles this morning. It's still April 17, 2019 in the afternoon. So let's get right into it. Now, I don't know if y'all are familiar with a congressman out of California. I think he's a congressman. And I think he might be running for president. Don't know too much about him, but I know enough to know that he's an idiot. All right? And he's a tyrant. A straight up tyrant. What am I talking about? Well, your boy Eric Swalwell. I don't know if y'all are familiar with him, but y'all need to look him up. Eric Swalwell is calling for the most extreme form of gun control ever to be. And it's not really gun control, is it? Like your boy Brian from High Impact Flick says, it's not gun control, it's people control, essentially. Because you take the guns away, you have more control over the people. Well, this nincompoop is calling for a buyback of assault rifles, okay? And it's only going to cost you $13 billion, people. That's it. It's only going to cost us $13 billion for this assault rifle buyback. He's trying to do what they did in Australia and what they're trying to do in New Zealand. All right. This is why I say we don't need government, because an idiot like this, Eric Swalwell, will try and pull stunts like this. So, guess what? He wants to do a buyback. It's going to cost $13 million. And for those who refuse to sell back their firearms or give their firearms back to the government, he wants to prosecute them. He wants to lock up people who have done nothing wrong, who have done nothing but keep whatever means they have to defend themselves against any attack. He wants to criminalize you overnight, which is what they often do. This is why I say we don't need government. And I looked at some of the comments from this morning, and some of you say we do need government, but not this form of government that we have right now. And, you know, I respect your opinion, but me personally, I don't think we need any central government or even a local government lording over everyone, coming up with arbitrary laws for us to follow, whether we vote for a representative or not. Because Emerson, I forgot his name. forgot who these people were. They were, I think they were socialists from back in the day. Well, you know what? They weren't socialists. They were people that lived in a communal. You know, they lived off, isolated from society. Emerson, I think his name. I have to go back and look at that. But they tried to have it to where there were no leaders in this little commune. And what ended up happening is that someone will always try to assert themselves as a leader. And that leader would become more and more greedy in terms of power and resources. Because that leader would start trying to control all the resources and dictate all of the labor and all that other stuff. Naturally, somebody is going to want to come and be the leader if you have a group of people. So if you don't establish a leader and keep that leader in check, they will get out of control. And that's why it's important that everyone tries to be a leader themselves, so that you can check an individual. Like, look, you stepping out of pocket. All right, we didn't ask you to lead us anywhere. We followed some of your suggestions, and everybody has an opportunity to put their 2 cents in, or whatever the case may be. But the key is always to never violate the rights of another individual, another human being. Everyone's individual rights must be respected, whether you have a leader or not. Once you start to trample on someone's rights, that's when you have a problem. And see, what happens is you establish a government. Now you're talking about more than one individual controlling things, but you're talking about a minority, right? You're talking about maybe, let's say you have a village of 2 or 3 people. Let's say you have a village of 100 people, okay? And the people in your village decide to create maybe 4 or 5 people that would oversee all the logistics of that village. You know what I'm saying? All the provisions, like a treasury or something like that. Let's say you have to be in contact with other villages, right? Or other tribes. You want someone to represent you. You want someone to represent your tribe. What you have now is a government, okay? If you allow them to then dictate the laws of your nation, of your tribe, of your village. There's nothing wrong with having a counselor or something. Let's say a council of elders for several villages. A council of elders or somebody of several villages, right? So that they can coexist and not interfere with each other's lives or cultures or anything like that. You have a council of elders, but so you have one elder from each tribe or each village or each nation to represent your village. But that elder would never dictate what goes on within their own village. They're just representing the wants and needs of their village. That's all they're doing. They're not the king. They're not the president. They're not making laws. They're not doing any of that. They're purely representatives. And so you wonder, well, how do you keep things, like, how do you keep things organized and all that? It just, you come up with that together. You come up with that together. It's like a small, tiny democracy. But really, it isn't. See, this is the problem with a democracy, right, of a nation, of a huge country. Democracy is majority rule, basically. A pure democracy is majority rule. There is no representative. There is no congressperson. There is no senator. You just go by majority rule. Well, let's say you have a country as big as the U.S. What the problem with a democracy is, if the East Coast has a larger population, the East Coast of the United States have a larger population than the West Coast than the West Coast does, then the majority rule would go by what the East Coast, because they have more people. And so what they decide to do over there on the East Coast will affect us here on the West Coast. And even though they're thousands of miles away, they may never step foot to the West Coast. So what ends up happening is you're under the thumb of that majority that really has nothing to do with your region. You know, they don't consider what goes on your side of the country. So now you have to do what they say. You have to go by what the majority of people in the West Coast say has to go down. And that's the big problem. What you want is every village of people, every tribe, they have their own thing going on. They have their own, whatever they decide they want to do. You know, they're of like mind, and they come together under that umbrella, under whatever belief system, culture you have. You guys get together, and that's what you do. And some Congress 3,000 miles away shouldn't dictate what you got going on. It's basically sovereign land. You're sovereign within your own small, tiny region of people. And that doesn't mean you can't coexist with other tribes and villages and nations. That just means that you have your own thing going on, you know? But the key is always individual rights. Like, no one, if you harm another person, if what you decide to do conflicts with another person's thing, you know what I'm saying? Then that's a problem. Then you might have to get like a mediator or an arbitrator or something like that just to hash everything out. But that doesn't mean that mediator or arbitrator is going to dictate anything. That just means that you guys come to a compromise or come to an agreement to have what you want going on. You know, it's all about respect. It's all about respecting each other. If you guys if two people come into a conflict over something, then if you can't handle it amongst each other, then that's when you get the middle person to hash everything out. But not a government. A government body should not decide what two private parties got going on. And that's what you have in government right now. A government will if you create a central government or even a local government that which operates under the umbrella of a central government, like here in the United States, that's the problem. They will always hunger for more power. They will always want you to do things their way. That is the problem with a central government that lords over all local governments, over all state governments. You know, that's the problem. And so now what you have is cats like Eric Swalwell, one individual who has his own view on firearms. The one individual wants to dictate how we should handle gun control. He has his own idea of what gun control is. He has his own desire, and we don't know what his desire is. What does he get out of having this gun buyback, this assault rifle buyback? What does he gain by that? We don't know. We don't know. So you have one individual who has his own mind set on doing something that would affect everybody in this country. Okay? And he's going to get together with other individuals, right? The Congress and the Senate. He's going to come together with those people. He's going to gather as many of those individuals as he can to try to get this pushed through. And that very tiny group of people is going to make a decision that will affect the entire country, hundreds of millions of people in this country. And this is what we want. That's what the government is doing. He doesn't want assault rifles or whatever on the street. He doesn't want that. So listen, if you don't want to have a gun on the street, then don't have a gun on the street. If you don't want an assault rifle in a house, don't have an assault rifle in your house. You don't get to dictate to me whether I can have an assault rifle in my own home. As long as I'm not hurting anybody with it, it's not hurting anybody. So you don't get to dictate to me what I get to keep in my house, because I'm not harming another individual with whatever I decide to have. But a government thinks they can decide what I can and can't have in my house. That is the problem with government. The government, like say the government of New York, right? The city council in New York wants to mandate vaccines. They want to take away your right to decide what you want to inject into your own body, in your child's body. Or they're going to do it at gunpoint, or they're going to lock you up. This is what government does. If I don't want poison injected into my child, if I don't want poison injected into my own body, then I should be able to say no, and that be it. I, from that point, am taking the risk. Never mind that this poison doesn't do jack shit good for anybody. So, I mean, come on. So this is what government does. If the you see, in the UK, they want to ban knives. So because people get stabbed by so if someone stabs somebody in Northern Ireland, then a cat in North London now cannot own a knife because somebody else stabbed somebody. You see what I'm saying? I have no intent on stabbing anyone, but because somebody else stabbed somebody, I can't have a knife now. That is what government does. That's what the ruling class does. Well, I'll tell you what, Swalwell is going to have a problem trying to get something like that to be enforced here in the United States. This ain't Australia, and this ain't New Zealand. All right, he's good luck. That's all I'm gonna say. So y'all tell me, does that sound like a great government? A few people decide for hundreds of millions or billions of people what goes on, what goes where, who does what to who. Come on. In China, they have social credit. All right, social credit. If you don't have good social credit in China, you can get fined, you can get locked up, you don't get to get certain things. That's what government does. ID 2020. Government did that. So now, I can't get on the plane without ID 2020 starting in 2020. I can't fly local. So what's going to come with that? Are they going to mandate that we have vaccines before we can get on a plane and travel to another state? Government did that. Y'all see what I'm getting at, right? The government wants to control you. They want to control. They control all the resources. You know what? You have to. You can't just go live somewhere. The government owns the land, and you have to pay for the right to live on that land. I can't just go to the mountain somewhere. I can't live on the side of a mountain near a lake and build a log cabin without the permission of the government. That's what government does. If I want to get away from the urban sprawl and live off the land, I got to get the permission from the government. If I want to live off the grid, if I decide I'm going to live off the grid, build solar panels, dig up a well, and be completely independent, raise my own food, you know what I'm saying? Hunt and gather, whatever I got to do, and the government finds out and they don't like it, they can seize my land and put me in jail. That's what government does. If I want to pull my kids out of school in some states and homeschool them, the teacher or the school can threaten to have CPS come to your house and take your child away. That's what government allows. The government allows cell towers to be built right on campus or right near campus. As a matter of fact, there was a school in California where they had a cell tower and kids were getting cancer. The parents figured it's that cell tower. Before the cell tower was put up, these kids weren't getting cancer. So they said, look, y'all got to take that tower down. The school didn't want to do it. So the parents threatened to pull their kids out of school. And they took it down. But the government allowed that tower to be put up in the first place, even though they know that radio frequencies cause harm and will cause cancer with certain amounts of exposure. The government allows these tech companies, these communication companies, to install 5G all over the place, even though millimeter wave frequencies cause much more damage than the frequencies that 4G is on and the current Wi-Fi. They don't regulate the amount of radio frequencies we're exposed to. So they can put up these 5G towers all over the place. The government has allowed these companies to do that. These companies, Verizon, AT&T, all them, to install these towers that cause cancer all over the place. The government hinders us from saying, look, we don't want 5G. We're all going to be subjected to radio wave frequencies in the millimeter wave spectrum because of the government. The government wants the rural areas in this country to be riddled with 5G so that we can't escape it. Even though it's a paper tiger. The 5G weaponry, paper tiger. They have very short range, even though they're strong. They're strong and dangerous, but they have very short range, and they're stopped by air, they're stopped by water, they're stopped by leaves, they're stopped by mylar. But the fact that if our house is fortified against it, it won't matter because we have to go outside at some point, right? And it'll be outside, we'll be exposed to it. Shoot. So that's what government does. Good old government. No, I'm good. I don't want it. We don't need the government. We don't. We don't need the government, y'all. Learn to be independent. Learn to live off the grid. Learn to be self-sustainable. We don't need the government to live. Just don't. Do you see? Let's take a pride of lions, right? Let's say you got 30 prides of lions covering a certain large area. Do you think the leaders of these lions prides get together and dictate what all the pride's gonna do? No, they don't need it. Humans are smart, right? We're smart human beings. We're smart animals. We can figure shit out without the government. The government is not. If the government stops existing, no, we're not gonna drop dead. It'll be an adjustment for some people. But at the end of the day, it'll work out. That's just real spit. I don't want it. So let's think about that. Think about why we really need the government. Or if we really need the government. And if someday it were to go away, what would we do? How would we move forward as a people. That's the key. So yeah, Eric Swalwell, good luck with that. Good luck with that gun buyback. It ain't gonna work out here. It's not Australia. It's not Australia. Completely different country, different mind state, different culture. It ain't gonna work out for you, buddy. I'll tell you that right now. Anyway, I'm gonna get off this. But really think about that. Think about if you really want the government in your life. Deciding how you're supposed to live on this earth. And where you're supposed to live, and you know how you're supposed to dress, and come on, man. Think about that. Anyway, I'm gonna get at y'all later. And we'll continue this discussion and many others. All right? Peace out.